the Frontline show. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad, on Pop Radio, iHeartRadio, and Spotify Premium. We got a great show. Once again, this is part 2 from last week. And I got my guy, my man, tech guru, tech expert in the house once again to bring you all some more information. So many people called me, text me, and commented on Brother Dimitri Roberts with an S, people, and his whole idea about how he planned to bring this app online and when he's gonna bring it online. So I'm gonna let him once again reintroduce himself, the 7-star CEO, Dimitri Roberts.
Yeah, Tyrone, thanks as always, man. It's always good to be on the front line with you.
Yes,
Welcome back.
That's right, Pops. But you know, we're here really to talk to you guys and to talk about what we're bringing to the city of Chicago and how we're bringing it to help not just reduce violence, but to help ensure that all citizens in this city have the opportunity to stay safe. I'm the president, founder, and CEO of 7-Star. 7-Star was founded about 3 years ago to focus on violence prevention and to help reduce the overall engagement of how police officers engage with the communities they serve, but also how citizens engage with the police officers that serve in those communities. So we are on the front line. I'm here with my great friend Tyrone Muhammad. We got a great show coming for you today, and please send us your thoughts, ask questions. I'm Dimitri Roberts here with Tyrone Muhammad, and we look forward to a great show today.
So with that being said, listen, I'm gonna get right to business. The people, they was concerned that they wanted to see, okay, how would this app allow them really, and I need you to break it down because I couldn't explain it the way you could. They want to know the program, what's the cost, is it realistic, and what's the time frame for us to get rolling with this new app?
Yeah, those are all great questions, and I think at the top of that question is most people want to know how much is this going to cost. Well, it's free because most of the folks
$3.99
from the communities that need them the most, you know, don't need to be paying to be more protected. So I grew up in those same neighborhoods. I later became a police officer working on the South Side, working in Inglewood. But as we know, we got technology out here that are doing amazing things. I mean, we're talking about colonizing Mars, you know, so the least we can do is work to keep our community members a little more safe. And we'll start to get into how it actually works. But at the end of the day, this technology has been built really over 10 years. And that started with me being a police officer, but even before I was a police officer, just being a citizen in the city of Chicago as an African American and dealing with just the same issues that a lot of folks in these communities deal with. And from that, once I became a police officer, I was able to see some of the disparities in the system, but you know, I was also able to give back to the community in a significant way, like a lot of police officers are. And so this app not only is giving citizens a way to better engage with police, but it's also giving the police officers a better way to engage with police, a better way to engage with the citizens. The reason for that is, you know, there's police officers out here that are doing a great job all the time, and they just don't always get the recognition that they need.
Yeah, that's serious. I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of the questions as well. Like, you know, here you are, a former police officer, and what people don't understand is your area, your beat was what, Inglewood?
Correct.
And you grew up where?
Close to Inglewood.
Close to Inglewood. So, and understanding that, you have a grasp of those community, the gang, drugs, and violence. And the fact that you as a former police officer, because I know you personally, I've talked to you, and I know why you became a police officer. So once again, if you would explain that to the people, what made policing a career choice for you, and I think you mentioned about being victimized or seeing family and friends victimized by the police. So in that case, I would like you to bring that full circle again, but on the back end, let the people know and it's what inspired you to to also put forth an app like this that
Right.
allows for accountability?
Yeah, so as most people, a lot of people, I should say, in under-resourced communities like where I came from, I mean, you grew up in Inglewood, you grew up not
Yes,
too
sir.
far from where I did. You know, we're only a couple years apart, but, you know, I grew up on 47th Street, you know.
Yes.
That was the dividing line between Hyde Park and Bronzeville.
Yes.
And I was on the other side of the tracks, if you will. And from that, you know, I was about 14 years old or so, hanging out as we always did. You know, I was, you know, grew up with not a lot, and we didn't have air conditioning in the house. So what did? We hung out on the porch, or we go hang out on the corner with our friends, not really causing any harm, but, you know, that quickly became something that was turned into nefarious activity by the police.
Yes.
And I was caught up in that, in several of those engagements, one of them ending with me being kicked in the stomach by a Chicago police officer. He was a white officer. He knocked my juice and my chips out of my hand. And that might not sound like a big deal to a lot of people, but, you know, I didn't grow up with a lot, and some of those days, that's all I had.
Right.
You know, and so at the end of the day, you know, I looked at this situation even then as a youth and said, you know, I can really get out here and be destructive in how I respond to this type of, you know, to how I'm being treated, because I really felt it was unfair, and I really was confused about what was going on. But, you know, I had some good mentors and some good people that took me under their wing, my mother to be included. And I later just said, you know, I want to make a difference in a significant way, and I think there's a better way to do things. So I became a police officer, and I ended up working in the same neighborhoods that I grew up in. As a result of that, I was able to impact the community, I think, in a significant way, because I really understood what a lot of folks were going through. So I would ride up on people on the corner, and, you know, it was a different conversation. And it was what it should have been. It was a conversation when that was appropriate. You know, I'm not going to say that there weren't times where there was law enforcement action that needed to happen, but in most cases, people in the community just want to feel like they're being protected in their communities in the ways that they should. So I know we got to take a break. We're going to take a, are we good? Okay. But to that point, you know, there's a lot of folks out there that have dealt with a lot of pain and a lot of problems as it relates to the police. And so as I got, you know, out of the police department, I started looking at ways, really, from me being in the media and me talking about these on a national level as a law enforcement analyst, particularly on CNN and Fox. I said, well, I'm just talking.
That's where I first saw you on Fox News. I say, man, this man one of the Republicans. I say, but once I heard your views on law enforcement, I was saying, like, man, I'm surprised they had him on the show.
Well, the good thing is that this is a, you know, we start talking political terms, this is a nonpartisan issue.
Right.
You know, this is something that goes right down the lines between Democrats and Republicans. And at the end of the day, nobody wants to see further violence, crime, or destruction within their communities at any level. And so as I'm talking about these things, I really, Tyrone, felt like I was becoming part of the problem, because I'm sitting on national TV talking about these things and talking about potential solutions, but I'm not creating the solution. Yeah. So I said, I'm being a hypocrite. I'm being just as much a part of the problem by just sitting here talking about it and not doing something about it. And that was the kind of tipping point where I said I really just need to go and build something significant, and that's where Protected was started.
But when I look at that and I think about the app itself in general, now who sitting around, like, as a police officer, like you sitting around as a police officer talking about, you know what, I need to build an app, because we know the culture. I understand why you would do it, given I know your mindset now. But sitting around, like, you had to have some type of vocation in apps, technology. What make you decide to go with the app way out? You know?
So I was in the military for a lot of years, and happened to have the opportunity, because I worked in intelligence, to work with a lot of interest in technology. So I was part of, for several years, I was part of a special operations community where we use some of, you know, the world's best technology to target terrorists and to take nefarious people off streets in foreign countries. And I would see some of those same issues, let's say in Iraq, that were going on right here in the city of Chicago. And I had to ask myself the question, why aren't we doing something more to deal with the issues that are here in our own country, but we're over here in another country focusing on these issues with other people, and we're using a bunch of money and a bunch of technology to do that. And that was kind of, a further thought. That's not where the app started, but it was just a thought. And kind of along the way, I ended up going to Georgetown University, picked up a few things there about computer engineering and computer science, and then got a chance to work at the Pentagon, working in research and development around some technology projects that I thought were very compelling. And that's really when I started to turn the corner and see that there was a technological way that we could really address these issues in a significant way to really keep more people safe and to ensure that both sides of this issue are addressed in a significant way. And that both sides is both the police and the citizen. I've worn both uniforms, but as I've said before, at the end of the day, we all bleed the same color, Tyrone.
After this break, I want to talk to you more about the economic aspects of Protected and 7 Star. So you're here on Frontline Radio with Spotify Premium, iHeartRadio, and Pop Radio. And we'll be right back after this.
Nigga, you understand? For the fuck back, let me take a stand. Now speak in French, never been to France. I'm a big old daddy, you don't want no cane. Mama said it knock you out. Mama said it knock you out. Mama said.
Tune in to the Frontline Show. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad, on iHeartRadio, Pop Radio, Spotify Premium. This is the second half, as I should say, of Dimitri Roberts' 7 Star Protected app. Yeah. And before we went on break, I wanted him to talk about the economic aspects of it and how, when I look at this and think about the potential to make billions and to correct some social ills, and talking to you in private and thinking on how to best use your company for some type of community or social benefit. And I would like the people to hear from your own mouth and not mine how you plan to get the community involved. You've already identified individuals, and we already started that process.
Correct.
I was just gonna say to you all that it's not no bootleg operation. I observed personally several high-end buildings where the protected company 7 Star will operate from in Chicago. I mean, great locations. They make a statement, but the fact that the communities, that's kind of different. And what I mean by that's kind of different is that we're so used to other people coming in our communities, right? And usurping the wealth, setting up businesses. But here you are taking the app, your application, you setting up a base, an operation center in like the heart of downtown, or we looked at the Fulton Market. And I said I like that one.
That's what we're going to
because it gives us access. Our people access to the building without going through the high-rise situation and being obstructed.
Yeah.
So, and I'm gonna let them lay it out for you because I'm excited and I'm proud to be associated with this brother and what he about to do. I call him the Nobel Peace Prize candidate and the future billionaire. So that's who y'all looking at. So get used to seeing them because we're about to do some big things in Chicago and the world.
Well, I think that the big thing starts with treating people and giving people an opportunity from the level that they're at. And I wouldn't be where I am today had it not been for folks seeing something in me, sometimes more than I was able to see it in myself.
Yes, sir.
And so now that I've seen a level of success, I've been able to be innovative around these things. It's only by God's grace that, I'm still here. I've served combat tours in Iraq. But before that, I served combat tours right here in the streets of Chicago.
In the streets.
And so for us to be able to make it through that on the other side in sound mind, body, and spirit, it's up to us to be able to give back to our communities in a significant way. And we start talking about the economic opportunities that 7 Star is bringing to the city of Chicago. That starts with jobs at the foundation.
That's right.
But we're doing something a little different at 7 Star that I don't think many other companies or any company has ever done before. And we're creating a whole new job category for citizens and for members of the community to utilize their skill sets that they've developed over a lifetime from the areas that they have grown up in, that they come from, and that they love, and that they want to see safer as well. And so we're going to hire what's called community subject matter experts. So if you live in Inglewood, then
community subject matter experts.
That's correct, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to call the police anymore because of the broken trust. But you'll have trust with 7 Star, and we'll be able to get information from you and get that in the right channels to help reduce crime anonymously in your community in a way that's never been done before. Because when you hit, I want to connect with my community analyst on your app when you're using Protected, then you'll talk to somebody that's from the neighborhood
actually
that you're
from
in.
the community. They're not these individuals who placating violence prevention or placating actually being in the community. These are people that your company actually pay from the community.
Correct.
That has a connection to the community.
Correct.
Which is really what we've been saying need to happen throughout the city.
And more so, we want to give people significant jobs, and we want to give them a living wage, and we want to give them an opportunity to give back to their communities. Because at the end of the day, these community members don't want to see things happening in their communities either. It's just there's a broken system. That system needs to be fixed, and we're bringing a solution to both sides of this coin that I think is going to help.
My co-host in the house, people, Queenie, Greene. Go ahead.
And we want to ensure that those members of the community have an opportunity to contribute back to their communities, earn a living wage, and do that under the 7 Star banner.
Wow. So when you start talking, I know a little more, and I'm going to flesh it out for you. Unlimited paid vacation, health care, all of the things. Talk about that, man. Just feeling good about
all of that stuff is important. And because what's happened traditionally, usually in communities like this, when you don't have major tech hubs, or you don't have folks that are looking to bring jobs or pull people from the communities to give them jobs in the tech community, some of these are standard benefits that are going on in Silicon Valley every day. So unlimited vacation, you're not going to have to pay any healthcare premiums when you're at 7 Star. We're going to do all the things like give you lunch and help you to get to and from work in a significant way, and help to make sure that you're leading and living a healthy lifestyle. Because if we invest in you, then you're going to invest in us, and we're going to be able to make great technology together. So, our motto is we invest in people, and those people make great technology. So that's what we want to put out, and that's the kind of corporate culture that we're going to have at 7 Star.
Well, listen, my co-host Queenie Greene has arrived. Sister, you can jump in at any time. You got anything you want to say to the people? And I know you was out on some real serious business. You always are. So go ahead and talk to the people.
Thank you.
Good to
Sorry
see you,
I'm
Queen.
late.
That's okay.
Sorry I'm
Good
late.
to see you.
I was actually watching the live. And yes, so I just attended the Democratic Party annual cocktail party honoring J.B. Pritzker, and I was invited by Tony Preckwinkle. Shout out to Tony. Thank you for inviting me. We got some different things with some different people in the making. And I just want to say, once again, Dimitri, I have been really reading the website and looking into the app, and I spoke to, of course, me being there at the Democratic Party, I spoke to a couple of the political figures about where I needed to be afterwards and what we were talking about. And I mean, they're like, wait, you're serious? So who's this guy? And I'm like, well, take this card, and if I can get there fast enough, click on the live and you'll find it out. Yeah. So I just want to say, even coming from the Democratic Party, I'm out of breath because I was moving trying to get here. They're really interested in the app, and one of the things, that we talked about is if it's voluntary or is it mandatory for the police officers to basically register and attach themselves to the app. And talking about the app, one of the people, they were saying, well, seems like to me for anyone that I like the idea and for anyone that doesn't want to attach themselves or register for it, it kind of makes you seem a little suspect.
Correct.
So.
Correct. Because at the end of the day, this really, we've thought about this end to end. We've developed this app over years of development, and I've personally dedicated over 10 years of sweat equity into coming up with a solution like this. And I was just sharing a little bit about that before you got here, Queenie, but that's a very good point. The app is voluntary use for now. But I think somebody that wouldn't want to use this app, you look at them and say, well, why not?
Why wouldn't you want to? Yeah.
We're not holding anybody's data. We're not sharing anybody's data. We're here to just ensure that when that interaction is happening with law enforcement officers, that it's a lot more safe, it's a lot more transparent, and both sides of that equation are walking away feeling a little more safer and a lot more protected.
And another thing about that, right? I feel kind of like sometimes the only one, right, to be able, when I see a police officer pulling a citizen over, because of our history with the police, I always pull out my camera. I pull out my Facebook Live, or I pull out a live, I record it. And to let those individuals know I'm watching, we're watching. So in a sense, the protected app also allows the regular Joe to be able to access a camera at the touch of a thumb, or
and feel like, protected and feel a little safe. I know for me, it got to a point, especially like going over to the summer. I have a 12-year-old son, but my son, he is the height of about a 16, 17-year-old. So no one looks at him and actually thinks he's 11 and 12. He got jumped on by a group of like 16-year-olds because they thought he's big like them, but he was only 11. And I know for me, just because of what's been going on, I was taking a walk. I was frustrated. The kids will, if anybody has children, they will make you want to catch case. And, instead of catching the case, I walk around the block. And the police had pulled someone over in front of my house. And this got to the point where just because we don't know if a person makes a false move, it might be gunshots. So I got to the point where I won't even walk past, or I try to stay clean out the path when the police had someone pulled over, because you just never know if that young man makes a false, and this is what we've been now kind of accustomed and brainwashed to. I don't want to walk past when the police have somebody pulled over, because if that brother makes a false move, it could be shots fired and I could get caught in crossfire. So I've even started telling my children, when you coming home or when you walking down the street or when you with your friends, if somebody's pulled over and the police gotta go across the street, don't walk in the path of that, because you just don't know. And I know if I'm thinking this, and I know the people around me, this is what they're telling their kids and their children and their teenagers too. At this point, we've gotten to the point where we all scared of each other. Because I don't want to walk past the police when they got somebody pulled over, because I don't know when 16 shots is gonna ring out.
Yeah, and what a travesty that is, right? We're in a country where, everything that we've done at the foundation of this country has been to create a equal opportunity for all people, no matter the race, creed, or color. And for you to share that experience with me, Tyrone asked a little earlier, like what motivated me to do this, what motivated, the creation of the app, is stories like this, Queenie, because I've been on national TV talking about this. There's, if anybody looks it up, I hugged a mother, her name is Sheree Santora, a couple of years back on CNN, and apologized to her on behalf of law enforcement, because she said a very similar thing about her son. And she said, I'm not afraid about my son going out and, having problems with other people in the community. I'm afraid for my son to go out and be injured by police.
Yeah.
And I said, when you look on the side of any police car and it says serve and protect, there's a service first mentality that should be there, that we want to We want to help to create and bridge that gap between that broken trust between community members and the police. But I just hope that if we look at this and we're having this conversation a year from now, that people will say, you know what, we've seen crime in the city of Chicago reduced. We've had much better engagements and opportunities to have communication with police officers that work in my community, and police officers are saying the same thing, because really it's time to make a change around these issues.
Definitely.
You know, I mentioned that we're using technology to do all these great and wonderful things. You know, we can order food, we can go to the moon, you know, we can colonize Mars, we can do all of these things. And at a minimum, you know, we also now are going to be able to keep people more safe, both police officers and citizens, when they're engaging with each other.
Yes, we shouldn't, as citizens. I know for myself that has a son, everybody in my neighborhood, we have instructed the boys when they're outside playing with each other. You can't even, the boys, they can't run and play tag with each other. We can't, and we've instructed them, because my son is big. Don't be running. Like, he is, and it's sad because we're taking the innocence from our teens and our children, because we have to keep them safe. So it's almost like almost like that double standard of we're still not progressing when we're stripping our children of what they should be allowed to do. They should be allowed to run around in the neighborhood and play. But boys can't play tag, because if the police catch them running, they just might automatically, the police had a 11-year-old about a year ago.
Yes.
Made the 11-year-old use the bathroom on himself and everything, and these boys were playing, and because he saw a black young man running, so these are the issues that we deal with that we actually deal with on the streets of our hoods. Every single day.
And at the end of the day, we have to bring just the human factors back to what we're doing here, not just for our families, but for our whole communities. And I think that with panels of discussions like this, continue to talk to community members, continue to get more people involved, we're going to be able to make this really what it should be. And really, it's long overdue. So the more people that get involved, the more people that promote this, the more people that talk about this. You can reach us at info@7star.com. That's info@svnstar.com. Send us an email, shoot me a message, connect with me on social media. Dimitri N. Roberts, both on Facebook and on Instagram. And obviously reach out to us via Queenie, via Tyrone. This is a team effort here, but we need your help, and we want to make sure that we're doing this in a way that represents all folks that this is relevant to in the community.
So people, this is the Frontline radio show, as you know, on Pop Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify Premium. We'll be right back with more of this talk, this conversation surrounding safety, policing, and this great app we're about to get into.
Mama said it knock you out. Mama said it knock you out. Mama said it knock you out. Sauce it up, hit 'em up, check my file. Leave 'em in the dust, leave 'em in the past. Hit 'em in their pussy, kick their ass. Get these pockets right, kiss my ass.
Welcome back to the Frontline show. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad, with Queenie, Greene, and Dimitri Roberts with an X. I don't know why I want to keep calling the man Roberts with an S. And we talking about part 2 of the Protected app. And during the break, Queenie went into just the importance of just standing up and being accounted for. Although I might have took a different approach, people, and got tired of seeing the protests and the talking, and decided to take action for the same problems that continue to exist. In this case with Dimitri, the same problem continue to exist when it comes to police accountability.
Correct.
The people finding trust in the law enforcement, and an app that also put back into the community, in terms of employment and giving people a stake and a voice. and the issues and the problems that's been systemic between law enforcement and the communities.
Yeah.
So speak on that.
And a large part of this, Tyrone, is that people's rights get violated, and a large part of that is because they don't have the data or the same access to information or the data as some other people. If you can't afford a pricey attorney, if you don't know or weren't educated in some type of legal 101, if you will, then you can easily have your rights violated in a way that you have no reproach. You don't have a comeback to that. And so one of the things that we do with Protected is we tell you exactly why you're interacting with the police officer, why you're being stopped. We tell you the location of your stop. We give you the police officer's name, their badge number, and their unit of assignment.
Where you being stopped? What? First of all, the police who's stopping you.
The badge number. That is important.
Of this particular car in this particular beat.
Correct.
It tells you when you're being timed, the place you're being stopped, because obviously there's a GPS locator on there. And the reason for being stopped.
Yeah.
And after the stop is completed, then you get a report of everything that's happened in perpetuity that you keep with you, that's on your profile, that you can go back and say, I was stopped at this date, this time, at this location by this officer. This is how long I was engaged with this police officer, and this was the outcome of that stop. So
how
whether
long
I got a
do the
ticket,
camera do those facts, statistics, data stay in the system or protected? Do we keep it for a certain amount of time? 5 years, 3 years? How long?
So you keep it for as long as you have the app.
Oh. Yeah.
So now what tends to happen is that there can be some confusion, or maybe sometimes
$3.99. The app is free.
Sometimes there can be somebody's word against somebody else's, and we've seen major cases. If anybody has seen, one of my mentors and good friends, Van Jones, is currently active, working towards getting the parole and probation laws changed, particularly in Philadelphia. And if you guys looked at this documentary called Free Meek, then you guys saw some of the disparities in that system, and you guys saw that unfortunately there were corrupt police officers on the other side of those convictions that led to a lot of disparities, not just with that young man, but with other members of that community. So what we want you to do is walk away now with a record and a receipt of your interactions with law enforcement officers, but we also want the law enforcement officers to walk away with the receipt as well. So we're not just taking a one-sided approach to this, because at the end of the day, police officers want to feel more safe, and they want to be recognized for doing a good job too. But at the end of the day, now you walk away with the receipt of that interaction, but you also get to rate your interaction with your police officer. And that's something that's never existed in the history of law enforcement to date, that you can rate your interaction with your police officer in real time. But that police officer like
a Uber and a Lyft.
That's right. It's the same thing.
So let's say if we have a bad situation, let's just put it out there, because of course I think everybody is definitely going to focus more on the bad situation.
Sure.
So let's just go there. If we have a situation and we're not happy, and we feel that we are totally unjustly handled,
then we're gonna help you. And
so
you click a button on your app, and you connect in real time to one of our analysts. You connect with
in real time. So they sitting back like a traffic dispatcher, ambulance dispatcher. And when that call come in, the app, that signal or whatever comes in.
When they hit their button, the app is called Protected, Miss Gordon. So when they hit that button, we're here to help them. And we're going to have a team of analysts. We're going to have folks from your community, when you hit that button, that you can connect to in real time, that can help you to better understand what's going on.
Right now, I'm with this officer, and I don't like the way I'm being treated. And at that moment, there's somebody somewhere
Yes.
that is looking into recording and looking into me actually saying, I am stopped right now at this moment.
Correct.
This fool is not acting right. Let's
Right.
just be real, because
Right.
let's just be real. How
Right.
you guys are gonna get
Right.
some calls. This is not right at that moment. So it's not a situation that I can say, that this is not how I feel, and it's going to take a year or two.
Correct. This is real time engagement, and when it connects to our team of analysts, you're not just connecting with a community member, but we'll be employing former law enforcement officers, former military members that also will sit side by side, just like me and Tyrone do, and you will be able to then engage and better understand. But the police officer can as well better understand what's going on in your situation and how we can be of assistance. Because at the end of the day, sometimes things get to a certain point where you might need a third party to step in and help to de-escalate some things. You might need a mediator. You might need somebody to help offset a potential situation that could go south. But we're that conduit in the middle, that trusted agent that we want to be able to help both sides be safer and more protected in real time. But yes, when you hit that app, you're going to talk to somebody in real time, in the moment, and they'll be able to provide whatever level of assistance that you need, whether it's from filing a grievance or filing a complaint or complimenting that officer for doing an amazing job. And the officer will have the opportunity to connect with our analysts as well and get assistance with things they may need assistance with.
This is the thing I'm trying to figure out, right? Just the police and law enforcement buying into it. The change is real hard for people, especially when you're dealing with a culture of policing that almost like a fraternity order police might just fight against it.
But
how do we have?
We're gonna always have naysayers, but is change hard? It can be, but it doesn't have to be. No. And I think in a situation like this, when officers use this application because it was designed with them in mind as well, they're going to see the utility in using this app that's going to help to keep them more safe. Because the number one priority that I had when I was a police officer was to go home to my family every night. Right. And so if we're offering a way for both police officers to be to show in real time that they're doing great work in the communities, I would have used this app every single day and on every single traffic stop that I did as a police officer in the end.
Do you see a time where the app like this can determine the police officers that we get rid of, weeding out the bad cops and the good cops, and the police officers that we increase in bonuses or salary as a result of their interaction with the people?
100%. And for the very reason I just said, because we're the first application to do a lot of things, but we're the first application to ever allow you to rate your interaction with a police officer in real time. So
something real quick while it's on my head.
Right,
Go ahead. So as a company, because we're gonna be a multi-billion-dollar app company.
Absolutely.
So as a company, then, if we keep all these stats, statistics, and narratives, right?
At some point,
do we then take officers? Because I want to help them be better. You understand? And say, okay, you get a trip. This group of officers we have identified has a perfect rating in interacting with the citizens.
Absolutely.
And as a company,
absolutely,
we're not just talking about protecting the people, but we also reward good behavior.
Absolutely.
So
okay, go ahead.
So is this something that we're talking like Lightfoot, superintendent? Is this something that they will also have interaction with, to where like almost kind of piggybacking off what you're saying? So like, is it whether it's quarterly or whatever?
So I would love to have
superintendent or mayor.
I would love to have a conversation with Mayor Lightfoot.
I think we will
about how we can reduce municipality risk, because as all of us know, even just in 3 years between 2013 and 2016, Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles paid out over $1 billion in lawsuits for civil suits to citizens. And the biggest reason for that is there's no real easy way for law enforcement agencies to understand what police officers are doing in real time when they're interacting with citizens. So when you talk about weeding out bad apples, listen, I'll be the first to tell you, 95% of the police officers I work with are amazing human beings, and they go out and they do a great work every day. There's 5% of them that need to be weeded out, that need to be doing something different, and us being able to rate them in real time during their interactions, sharing that data potentially with if this is mandated by the city of Chicago for police officers to use, then we just created a way for them to better keep in touch and at the pulse of the officers that either need to be retrained or don't need to be on the department at all.
I think you made a. I'm sorry. I think you made a really good point. And shout out to Miss E. She's also piggybacking and agreeing with this. I think we definitely need our people to research and know your rights. I think that is probably one of the most lacked knowledgeable issues right now in our community. We don't know our rights.
Let me break down what the app does.
And you, as you do that as well, once again, before we close out, tell the people the website and opportunity when we'll be launched.
Yeah. So the website is www.svnstar7star.com. The app is called Protected. You can Google either Protected or 7-Star or Dimitri Roberts, and it'll bring up that information. Please send us some info. Send us your questions at info@7star.com, and we want to hear from you. So to that point, Queenie, what we've done in the app itself is when you get that report actually tells you the law that's associated with the reason you're being stopped. And that's something that when we start talking about rights are associated with laws. And if you don't know the law that's associated with the reason you're being stopped or what a police officer may put on a report, then that's where your rights potentially get violated. But now we give that to you in real time. So it's associated directly to the reason that you're being stopped. And you get that in your report once your interaction with the police officers are complete.
With that being said, once again, as you know, this is the Frontline show where we tackle frontline issues and create opportunities all from the front line. And with that being said again, this is Pop Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify Premium. We'll be back next Tuesday, and this man ain't going nowhere. He'll be back here regular because he's moving. The office gonna be in Chicago, our headquarters.
Correct.
And we're gonna create some great opportunities, and it's a sponsor. This is one of our sponsors for our show. So thank you all for tuning in. See you next week.
Let's get it. Streets of Chicago turn me into a desperado.
This is the Frontline show. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad, on Pop Radio, iHeartRadio, and Spotify Premium. Stay tuned.